Welcome to this miniature modeling mini-series. I'm Jason, the creator of the Tabletop Battlefield. In this two-part series, I'm going to be assembling and painting this tiny little guy right here, which is a Jackalope Battlemech from Battletech or Battletech Alpha Strike. So, here we go. Let's start off with the assembly process. For assembling the Jackalope mech, of course, I've got the mech itself. I've got a file. I've got the hex base, some super glue, and I've got a tray of water here with a little bit of dishwashing soap mixed into it. That's for washing off the miniature once you take out of the package. And then some paper towel to dry the miniature. So with any kind of pewter miniature, in general, the first step is to take it out and dump it in some water with the soap to wash off any mold release that may be on the miniature. Then one at a time, just dry each of the pieces. I find with the Battletech miniatures, in terms of removing the pieces off the sprue, usually you can just bend them and snap them off, and the way the sprues are designed, they'll basically come off at the attachment points. Though, you do need to go ahead and take a file and just gently file down where the piece was attached to the sprue. Examine each piece for any flashing, remove it, and then you're ready to start the assembly process. So the Jackalopes have a 3-toe setup. The first toe is already attached to the leg piece. The back 2 toes are their own individual piece, and they attach in the back like that. When gluing these pewter parts together, you want to take a little bit of super glue, apply it to one of the pieces, and then hold the 2 pieces together for about 60 seconds to be careful to not move either piece. It is also helpful to let the 2 pieces you just glued together sit for another minute or 2 before you try to attach something else to that piece. Let's take a look at the main body of the Battlemech, and there doesn't appear to be any flashing on it that I need to remove, so that's good. So I'm going to install the little sensor thing that sits in the top of the Jackalope mech next. And this piece has a little design that faces towards the front of the cockpit. Alright, it's time to work on the hip joint, so let's remove that piece from the sprue. And with the Jackalope hip piece, one side is flat, one's got a little bit of a bent to it. The bent side faces forward. Now each of the legs have obviously a outside, inside. The outside, the hip joint has a little circle with another one impressed into it, whereas the inside has a little bit of bulge that's going to attach to the hip joint. So what we need to do is place a little bit of super glue on the bulge of the inside of the leg, and then set that leg flat onto the ground. Then take the hip joint and orient it so that the front is facing front and the top is pretty much parallel to the ground, and hold it in that spot for about a minute to let the glue dry. Alright, there we go. Let that sit for a while. That's definitely an easy to break joint. So what I'm going to do is glue down the other leg to the hex base. Just make sure that the front of the robot's going to face one of the hex sides, and then put a little bit of super glue on each of its toes and just set it down very gently. Hopefully the weight of the piece will hold it in the right spot long enough for the glue to set. And to give the model a little bit more time, I'm going to start removing the main weapons from the sprue and get those cleaned up. So pop them off, remove the flashing, and then take a file and file down where they were attached to the sprue. Alright, let's attach the second leg on. Put a little bit of glue in the hip socket on the waist piece. So I'm not putting the glue on the leg, it's standing on the base, just on the hip itself. And I'm also going to apply a few drops of glue to the 3 toes of the other foot. And very carefully place this piece down on the base and slide the hip so that it's connected to the other leg. And just put a small amount of pressure holding the 2 hips together. After about 60 seconds, let it go and hopefully it won't collapse on you. Now it's time for the delicate step of attaching the torso. So let's put a little bit of super glue on the top of the hips where the torso is going to go. And just very gently align the torso however you like. I like to give it a little bit of a turn off center. I think it makes the whole model look a little bit more epic. And then as with anything, hold it in place for about 60 seconds. If you find it's not going to stay up, well, just keep holding it there for hopefully another 30 seconds and try again. With the torso hopefully dried, it's time to attach the weapons. Now the weapons have an inside and outside, just like the legs do. The inside has a little bulge to where you're going to stick it into the torso. And then the outside has a little circle with another one inset into it. That's going to be the outside detail, the shoulder joint. As for what is top and bottom, the bottom has a little bit of a triangle piece to it. If you're looking up close at the miniature, you'll see this. And that is the bottom of the weapon, so that part should face down towards the ground. Now very carefully, we're going to put a little bit of super glue on the inside of the shoulder joint on the arm. This is on the arm itself. And then we're going to hold it in place up against the body. Very important, just do one arm at a time. I've tried to do things in a hurry and put like 2 arms on at once, and that more often than not just ends up failing. Take your time, hold it in place for 60 seconds, and let it dry. Repeat the process with the other arm. When attaching the second arm, be sure you're not applying too much pressure such that you'll squeeze in the miniature and break the other arm you just glued off. For base details, I'm going to be working with some crushed seashells. I bought these from a local hobby store. And once you paint them up, they can either look like rocks or more natural hills as part of the landscape that the mech is walking on. Put a little bit of glue down in one section of the hex space where it's empty and place one of the small pieces of the crushed seashell down. Give that about a minute or 2 to dry, and we can go ahead and call this part of the process done. Assembly for the Jackalope Battlemech is done, so for the next video of this series, we'll take them outside, prime them up, and paint them up, and base them all in one video. So thank you guys all for watching. Once again, I'm Jason, the creator of the Tabletop Battlefield. Subscribe to the videos here on YouTube to get the latest in this series, as well as other miniature and robotic and gaming, who knows what I may be working on kind of a thing. So thanks for watching, and have a good night.